You just checked your phone. There was no notification. Nothing buzzed. Nothing lit up. Your hand just traveled to your pocket like a magnet finds north. You stared at a black screen, met your own disappointed reflection, and put it back. And here's the genuinely unsettling part. You're going to do it again before this sentence ends. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're not even especially addicted. And I'm not using that word clinically, compared to the person next to you. You're a smart adult quietly losing a fight with a slot machine you keep calling a phone. Somebody built it to win. You don't know their name yet. You will. So let's get something straight, because you've been lied to. You think you check your phone because you want what's on it. The text, the like, the email from a person who matters. You picture the reward sitting at the end of the swipe like a treat at the bottom of a cereal box. Wrong. Beautifully, embarrassingly wrong. You don't check your phone for the reward. You check it for the maybe. The maybe is the drug. The content is just the packaging. To understand why, you have to meet a man who tortured pigeons for science and accidentally explained your entire life. His name was B.F. Skinner. Skinner was a behaviorist, which is a fancy word for a guy who believed you could explain almost anything an animal does by looking at what it gets rewarded for. He built little boxes. Charming, right? Inside, an animal, a rat, a pigeon, could press a lever and sometimes get food. And Skinner discovered something that should be printed on the back of every phone ever sold. He found that if you give the animal a pellet every single time it presses the lever, the animal is calm about it. Press, eat, predictable, boring. The animal presses when it's hungry and stops when it's not, like a reasonable creature with a schedule. But then Skinner did something cruel and brilliant. He made the reward random. Now the lever paid out sometimes. Not every time. Not on any pattern you could learn. Just sometimes. And the animal lost its mind. It pressed that lever like its life depended on it. It pressed when it wasn't hungry. It pressed long after a sane creature would have quit. He called this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, which is a mouthful. So let's translate it into plain human. The reward you can't predict is the reward you can't stop chasing. Read that again. The unpredictable reward is the most addictive one in the known universe. Not the biggest reward. The most unpredictable one. Now, quick question. When you pull down to refresh your feed and let go and watch that little spinner go around, what are you doing? You're pulling a lever. You don't know what's coming. Maybe 40 likes. Maybe a message from someone you've been thinking about. Maybe absolutely nothing. A void. A feed full of an influencer's brunch. You can't predict it. And so, like Skinner's pigeon, you pull again. And again. The pull to refresh gesture is, I am not exaggerating, the single most successful piece of psychological engineering of your lifetime, and it was designed to feel exactly like the arm of a slot machine. Somebody chose that, on purpose. We'll get to who. By the way, quick favor while your dopamine's warmed up. If learning that your phone is a Skinner box for adults is doing something for you, subscribe. This whole channel is just me explaining the ancient bugs running your life, one twitchy compulsion at a time. Free. Cost you one tap. You're already holding the phone. We both know that. Okay, so Skinner explains why the randomness hooks you. But there's a deeper, weirder layer. And for that, we need a man who spent decades wiring up monkey brains to figure out what dopamine actually does. His name is Wolfram Schultz. Now, you've heard of dopamine. You think you know it. You think dopamine is the pleasure chemical, the little hit of joy your brain gives you when something good happens. Wrong again. You're really racking these up. Schultz's research showed something that quietly rewrites how you should think about every craving you've ever had. Schultz recorded the activity of individual dopamine neurons. And at first, sure, the neurons fired when the reward arrived. Treat shows up, dopamine spikes, makes sense. But then the brain learned to predict the reward. A signal, then a treat, every time. And here's the punchline that should change your life. Once the reward became predictable, the dopamine stopped firing at the reward. It moved. It jumped backward in time to the moment of anticipation. The cue. The maybe. The dopamine wasn't celebrating the prize. It was reacting to the prediction of the prize. And it spiked the hardest, the very hardest, when the reward was uncertain. When the brain genuinely didn't know if the good thing was coming. Sit with that. Dopamine is not the feeling of getting. Dopamine is the feeling of about to maybe get. It's the engine of the chase, not the trophy at the finish line. So when you feel that pull toward your phone, that little tug, That's not your brain wanting the message. That's your brain wanting the not knowing whether there's a message. The suspense is the high. The content is almost a disappointment by comparison, which is exactly why you check, glance, feel nothing, and check again 4 minutes later. You weren't chasing the post. You were chasing the spin. How many times have you checked your phone since this video started? Be honest. Genuinely count. Then drop the number in the comments, because I want to know if I'm talking to a casual or a professional, and because nothing says I have learned something like confessing it to strangers under a doodle video. Go on. I'll wait. You won't actually pause, but I appreciate the gesture. So now you've got 2 pieces. Skinner, random rewards hook the hardest. Schultz. The brain gets high on the maybe, not the prize. Put them together and you've basically described a slot machine. And it turns out that's not a metaphor I'm reaching for. That's the literal blueprint. Enter Natasha Schüll, an anthropologist then at MIT who spent years, actual years, inside the casinos of Las Vegas, watching how slot machines are built and how the people who play them slowly disappear. She wrote a book called Addiction by Design, and the title is the whole thesis. These machines are not accidentally addictive. They are engineered, down to the millisecond, to keep you pressing. Schüll describes something she calls the machine zone. It's that state a slot player enters where the world goes quiet, time dissolves, the wins and losses stop mattering, and there's just you and the machine and the next spin and the next and the next. Players told her they weren't even chasing money anymore. They were chasing the zone. The point of the machine wasn't to win. The point was to keep going. The time on device, as the industry charmingly calls it, that was the product. The longer you sit, the more the machine has done its job. Now tell me, when you've been scrolling for 40 minutes, flat on the couch, thumb on autopilot, vaguely aware you're not enjoying anything, unable to remember a single thing you just saw, and unable to stop, what would you call that? Because the casino has a name for it. You're in the machine zone. You walked into a casino. You just did it lying down, in your own home, for free, holding the casino in one hand. And here's the part that should make your eye twitch. The casino has to lure you in with lights and free drinks and a building in the desert. Your phone doesn't. Your phone lives in your pocket. It's with you in bed. It's with you in the bathroom. Yes, that's where you are sometimes. We don't have to discuss it. The slot machine that took Vegas 100 years and $1 billion of engineering to perfect is now in the hands of a 6-year-old, for free, refreshing itself 24 hours a day. Schüll studied a building. You're carrying the building. So here's the obvious question, the one you're probably already forming. If this thing is so perfectly engineered to hook you, why are you so bad at resisting it? Why can't you just not? You're a grown adult. You can do hard things. You filed your taxes. You sat through that meeting. And yet you cannot put down a slab of glass that you, intellectually, know is engineering you. What is wrong with you? Nothing. And this is the twist. This is the part nobody tells you. Quick caveat first. This isn't therapy. I'm not a psychologist. This is behavioral science with stick figures. If any of this is genuinely running your life, a real human professional beats a doodle channel every time. Okay, you assume the reason you can't resist is a willpower problem, a character flaw, something soft and shameful in you, some missing discipline that better, stronger people have and you don't. So you white-knuckle it. You delete the app. You reinstall the app at 11 p.m. like a raccoon returning to a trash can, and you hate yourself a little more each time. But the willpower frame is a trap, and it's the wrong frame, and here's why. Your reward system, the dopamine, the chasing, the obsession with the unpredictable maybe, is not a bug. It's the single most important survival tool your ancestors had. Picture the brain you're actually running. It was finished, fully baked, tens of thousands of years ago, for a creature on a savanna. And on that savanna, what was the most valuable behavior in the world? Foraging, searching, checking. The bush that sometimes has berries and sometimes doesn't. That's the bush you'd better keep checking, because the maybe food is the difference between living and dying. The patch of ground that might have water, the horizon that might have a herd, the faces around the fire that might have news about who's a threat and who's a friend. Your ancestors who got an electric little thrill from chasing an unpredictable reward? They foraged more. They found more. They survived, and they had kids, and the kids had your jittery, treasure-seeking, never-satisfied brain. The ones who felt calm and content and didn't bother checking the bush? They starved. They are not your ancestors. You are descended from 100,000 years of the most restless, most reward-obsessed, most can't-leave-it-alone creatures on the planet. Of course, you can't put the phone down. Putting the phone down is asking the world's most successful forager to walk past a bush that lights up, maybe berries, every 9 seconds. That's the cruelty of it. Your phone didn't invent a new weakness in you. It found the oldest, deepest, most load-bearing strength you have, the instinct that kept your whole species alive, and it pointed it at a feed. Social information, by the way, was scarce and precious on the savannah. Who's allied with who? Who's angry at you? What's the gossip that keeps you safe? Your brain treats every notification like a survival update from the tribe. It does not know the tribe is now 400 strangers and a brand account. It just knows. New social information, must check. Might be life or death. It's always life or death to a brain that never left the Stone Age. Which means, remember what I told you at the very start? You don't know their name yet. You will. An unresolved open loop. A maybe payoff I dangled and refused to close. And your 100,000-year-old foraging brain could not walk away from an unclosed loop, could not let that, wait, who, when do I find out, itch go unscratched. That was it. That was the whole mechanism, running live, on you, in real time. You didn't keep watching because you have great taste in YouTube. You kept watching because I built a tiny slot machine out of one sentence and you pulled the lever. Sorry. Someone had to tell you. So what do you actually do? Because your brain as a Stone Age forager strapped to a casino is a great diagnosis and a terrible plan. You stop fighting the willpower battle because you will lose it, because it was never a willpower battle. You change the machine, not the gambler. You make the slot machine boring. Kill the notifications. Every buzz is a lever pull. Somebody else gets to yank on your behalf, so take the lever away. Put the phone in another room, physically, because foraging brains don't crave the bush they can't see. Turn the screen grayscale. The casino runs on color and your dopamine knows it. And when you feel the pull, that little tug toward the pocket, name it, out loud if you have to. That's the maybe. That's not a message. That's the spin. You can't delete the instinct. It kept you alive. But you can stop pointing the world's greatest survival tool at a feed full of brunch. So, you started this video by checking your phone for no reason and seeing your own disappointed face in a black screen. Here's the flip. That wasn't a moment of weakness. That was 100,000 years of brilliant, life-saving instinct, perfectly preserved, doing its job flawlessly, just at the worst possible target. You're not broken. You're a magnificent forager. You just got handed a bush that lights up forever and never runs out of maybe. Now put the slot machine down. After you subscribe, obviously, for more ancient bugs quietly running your modern life. And next time, we're going somewhere worse, because there's a reason you reach for the phone the instant you feel 1 second of boredom, and it is not a happy reason, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. But that's next time. For now, go check your phone. You've earned one pull. You magnificent, restless, doomed little forager. Just one. We both know it'll be more.